let's talk about something that's quietly shaping the health of our entire planet. It's not a new virus, it's not a war, it's a hidden enemy that's become one of the biggest health challenges we face. I'm talking about chronic non-communicable diseases, and we're going to break it all down. So let me just start with a question for you. What do you think is quietly responsible for most of the deaths around the world? Your mind probably jumps to big dramatic things, right? Like a pandemic or some other major catastrophe. But the real answer is actually something a lot closer to home, something that often takes decades to develop. And the answer is chronic non-communicable diseases, or NCDs for short. Now, in this explainer, we're going to dig into what these diseases actually are, what puts us at risk, and, this is the most important part, what we can all do to fight back. So first up, let's explore why these are often called a silent epidemic. They don't grab headlines the way a sudden outbreak does, but their impact is absolutely massive, and it often goes completely unnoticed until things get serious. Okay, so what in the world is a non-communicable disease? Well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's not something you can catch from someone else. There's no pathogen, no virus, no bacteria to worry about. These are conditions that develop within our own bodies, usually over a really long period of time. This image of an iceberg, it's honestly the perfect way to think about this problem. High blood pressure or hypertension is known as an iceberg disease. And why is that? Well, because just like a real iceberg, what you see on the surface is only a tiny fraction of the whole picture. Most of the danger is hidden, deep underwater. In fact, only about half the people who have it even know it. And that right there is a perfect metaphor for all NCDs. So much of the issue is invisible. All right, so if we're going to take on this invisible enemy, we've got to understand what helps it thrive. So let's pull back the curtain and unmask the risk factors that play a role in all of this. And this is where it gets really interesting. The risks basically fall into two camps. On one side, you got the stuff you can't change, the non-modifiable factors. Your age, your genetics, your family's health history. Those are the cards you were dealt. But then, on the other side, you have the modifiable risks. And this is where the power is. We're talking about things like smoking, diet, how active we are, the things we actually have control over. And check this out. This quote really hits it home. It says that these modifiable risk factors can be changed, and often relatively easily. How incredible is that? This means we're not just stuck with our genetic destiny. The choices we make every single day can have a huge impact. That's a really empowering idea. So, we know the risks now, but what do they actually do? Where does this battle really take place inside our bodies? Let's take a look at some of the main battlegrounds. And one of the biggest battlegrounds, for sure, is the heart. Coronary heart disease is a direct result of so many of those modifiable risks we just mentioned. To put it simply, things like high cholesterol and blood pressure can cause blockages in the tiny arteries that feed our heart, basically starving it of the blood and oxygen it needs to work properly. And here we see another really devastating outcome. Now, this is a pretty intense visual, but it's so important because it draws a crystal clear line between a choice, using tobacco, and a really serious disease. And get this statistic, it's just staggering. About 90% of oral cancers in Southeast Asia are tied directly to tobacco. That makes the danger feel incredibly real and immediate. Another major battle takes place around how our body processes sugar, which of course leads us to diabetes. And as you can see, diabetes isn't just one thing, it has a few different faces. But the most common one by far, type 2, has exploded into a global problem, and it's often directly linked to our lifestyle, things like diet and how much we move. Okay, I know this all sounds pretty heavy. We've laid out the problem, the risks, the consequences, but the story absolutely does not end there. So now, let's shift gears and talk about our single most powerful weapon in this fight, prevention. And prevention isn't just one single action. It's more like a multi-layered defense system. First, you've got primordial prevention. This is about stopping risk factors from ever even showing up, like by promoting healthy eating habits for everyone. Then there's primary prevention. That's taking action before a disease can start, like quitting smoking. And finally, you have secondary prevention, which is all about early detection, like regular screenings, to catch something before it gets worse. And here is a perfect real-world example of that secondary prevention. This simple guide for breast self-exam is a key technique for catching breast cancer early. See? This isn't some abstract, complicated medical concept. It's a real, tangible action that can empower people to be proactive about their own health. So individual actions are absolutely critical. But this is a global problem, right? And a global problem really needs a global response. So let's zoom out a bit and look at how the world is trying to tackle NCDs together. And that response exists. This right here is the World Health Organization's Global Action Plan. This isn't just a list of helpful suggestions. It's a coordinated, worldwide strategy. Its very existence shows just how seriously the global community is taking this silent epidemic. And this plan has teeth. It's not just talk. It includes real, measurable goals. Just look at some of these targets. A 30% reduction in tobacco use, a 25% reduction in high blood pressure. These aren't just abstract numbers. Achieving these goals means saving millions and millions of lives. It proves that when we work together, we can make a massive difference. And in the end, that's what it all comes back to. The plan might be global, but the fight against these diseases, it really begins with each and every one of us. It starts with one small choice, maybe one healthier meal, or taking one walk after dinner. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what will your first step be?